It's not like when I grew up, when if you wanted to know something, you could only know it if you read a newspaper, a book, or watch the news on TV, specifically, Channel 24, Channel 25, whatever. Once you leave the house, you don't have access to any of that. But now we have a constant 24/7 flow
Yes.
of every little fart that people think. And so now what happens? There was the GHF, the Gaza Humanitarian, whatever, the new relief that's going on in Gaza. They give, instead of the white bags from UNRWA, they give like boxes full of aid. So there was this thing, it says IDF tanks fire on crowd in this new place. And all the news articles go crazy saying IDF kills Gazans getting aid. Ah. And then the agency publishes security camera footage. And what do you see? You
Yeah, I
see
saw that.
Hamasniks with Kalashnikovs shooting civilians, getting aid. And now they're requesting that part of the ceasefire deal is this aid agency pulls out of Gaza. Why? Why are they asking them to pull out of Gaza? Ah, I know, because they don't have the ability to steal from them like they were stealing from the previous aid, because this is guarded by a private security. And they're not happy with it because now the Hamasniks can't steal food, and the Palestinians raided their warehouses where they're hoarding food, and now they're going hungry. So
Yeah,
now maybe there's famine, but it's only for the Hamasniks.
it's crazy. And in
And
the meantime, all the mainstream media have reported that Israel, the IDF have killed, I don't remember the number, 30, 40, 50 people.
I saw it was
They have
45 as of today.
45, yeah. So they were so they know they were wrong, and I haven't seen, to my best knowledge, not even one agency, BBC, CNN, the RT here in
Oh,
Ireland,
of course not. Why would they?
apologizing for their own mistake. And that's just what professionals do. I provided you with wrong information as a
Accountability.
journalist.
They hold themselves accountable.
Yes, I mess up. For the sake of my own career, I'm going to put myself out there and say, yeah, I was not right with my numbers. I was not right with the aggressor. But here I am telling you that I got it wrong, and I will keep an eye next time.
Like,
That's simple. That's journalism ethics.
for sure. And, especially with like the amount of dead, it's always news articles that say, oh, information from a stringer in Gaza. A stringer is like somebody
Yes.
who's in the place who reports to the agency what they see. But many of these stringers are Hamas terrorists. And then many of the information comes from the Hamas-run Ministry of Health, which is what the BBC puts as the. And listen, I don't think there's any question that there's people who don't deserve to die dying in Gaza. For sure. Happens in any war. 700,000, almost a million, 700,000 innocent French civilians died in World War II in Allied bombing against the Nazis. That wasn't ethnic cleansing. That wasn't genocide. It was unfortunate, but it's what happens when there's a war in a civilized, populated area. And so, you know, it's. Oh, I lost my train of thought. 1 second. Maybe this is one of the things you can cut out. Um, ah, like, listen, without a doubt, people who don't deserve to die are dying in Gaza, for sure. It's unavoidable. But listen, after October 7th, and I'm talking about in the Nova, where it was just eucalyptus trees and the stage, and that's it, and mostly dirt. No rubble, no collapsed buildings, no debris, dirt and eucalyptus trees. Took them like 2 weeks to collect all the bodies from people who were in the Nova. And that was only 411 people, just from the Nova. 411 people took 2 weeks to collect, and that is with a functioning government and organizations and volunteers to come and help in an environment that's not a war zone. But nobody questions the fact that in Gaza, when a building collapses, they can give you a same day 500 people killed. And 9/11, it took them like 2 months to count the people. And that's in 2 collapsed buildings. 2 months it took them to count the bodies, to account for all the dead. But nobody thinks twice about the people who perpetrated the war reporting figures of those dead the day whatever bombing happens. No one questions it. Do I think nobody's dying in Gaza? No. Do I think that there's 100,000 dead now? Definitely not. The population of the Gazans was, I think, 300,000 in 73, 350,000, a little more than a quarter million. In the West Bank, I believe it was around 600,000, 700,000. Now the West Bank has a population of 3.5 million Palestinians, and Gaza has a population of 2.5 million Palestinians. And Israel, which is not giving a census to the Gaza and the West Bank, has a population of, I think, like around 9 million, give or take. And 20% of that 9 million is Arab Israelis. So just on those numbers alone, the genocide theme doesn't fit. Because we saw genocide in Rwanda, in Germany, in parts of Asia, parts of Europe,
Cambodia,
Cambodia, Ken, and we know what genocide looks like.
Yeah.
There's a definition of it. It's the intent to eliminate a population based on who they are. If that was the case, there would be zero aid in Gaza. And if I drive to the south, which I do often, I wouldn't be able to see lines of trucks at the border crossing, waiting to bring in aid. They're not there just for show. These truck drivers didn't decide to wake up in the day and go sit in these trucks to make the world think that there's aid going in. It's not actually going in. These organizations and these international communities who are trying to bring aid to Gazans aren't faking it to cover up a genocide. You know, it's like the 2016 election. People said, or before people said, "Oh, Biden stole the election." Like, what? The whole United States government, every single U.S. official conspired against Trump to steal the election? No, he just lost, and he's upset about it. Doesn't make what happened and what is not that. You know, it doesn't make reality different. And you know, it's just an unfortunate situation for everybody involved. Everybody's suffering. You know, no one's a winner. The soldiers are losing. The Israeli population's losing. The Gazans are losing. Nobody's gonna come out of this with a net positive. All Hamas did on October 6th, on October 7th, was set us back 35 years. Any progress we made towards peace, gone. Maybe in 10 years from October 6th, they could have had a Palestinian state somewhere or in some capacity. But I feel like now that's like way farther off. I'm not saying it's not possible.
Which sorry to cut you off, which is not their interest. They don't want to have a Palestinian state.
No,
because the moment, let's imagine the Palestinian state is made official, I don't know, next week. Of course it won't, but let's say next week. They won't be receiving funds anymore. So all those millions of dollars they were being offered by the UN, by the EU, by the
How does
US,
Hamas make money?
they'll be gone.
How does
Of course, like
Hamas
that.
make their money? Hamas makes their money by facilitating the suffering of Palestinians. Because if the Palestinians don't suffer, the international community won't come to their rescue and give them money and give them aid. What happens when the Palestinians are allowed to live and flourish and have reasons not to die? Well, people are going to stop donating. People are going to
Bad
stop
news for
sending
Hamas.
money.
Yeah.
And the Hamas leaders, who we killed, but whoever's in charge now, won't be able to line their pockets with this aid. You know, by keeping the Palestinians in a state of perpetual suffering, of perpetual victimhood, through means of war and violence, and through means of lack of education that isn't revolving around terror and propagation of this, they ensure their investment. They're making sure their source of income is safe. But the moment the Palestinians are able to live properly and not have to worry about tunnels being built under their house and bombs being stored in their mosques, well, that's bad news for Hamas because that's their source of income.
Yeah, and if it's not being evil, I don't know what is that. I think that's the definition of evil with every single syllable. So I think Hamas is making a favor to people who want to understand the concept of evil. If they don't need to grab a dictionary, just look at Hamas actions. They are embodying what evil is. So if people want to learn some new words for their own vocabulary, here it is. If they want to know mathematics, just outline the genocide. Just look at the figures of the Palestine population. If you want to understand the situation in detail between Israel and not only Hamas but all the neighbor countries, look at the geography and history. And unfortunately, those 3-4 subjects are not something that people master these days.